So have you found enough of the casing material to prove that that structure is actually what it looks like, basically? Will we see a piece of that? Okay, good.
That's the purpose of it.
Good.
Is it the pyramid? Let me show you where we're at right now. This so we're there.
Okay.
And so there's a road here, and then the diagonal looking thing is the stairways.
Okay.
So we're going to climb the stairways, and now inside the forest you see the light brown area. This is where we remove the soil. So you're going to be seeing what is below 1 meter of soil. As you can see, this is the bottom corner. This is one.
Come on, man, listen up here on the fresh air.
You see how those four sides meet at 8.
Work with the Ministry of Defense, the Armed Forces, the Joint Staff on creating sustainable programs for the Armed Forces so they can actually not only progress towards NATO, but actually rule more. A lot of policies,
Got another 200 steps.
Yeah, we are climbing the pyramid right now. We had 225 steps here, and we just did 49. So 170 to go, and we're gonna make another break, and then we'll get to the first sections with the uncovered blocks, and we're gonna be talking more there. All right, everybody here? Yes? Okay.
One staying down.
Who is?
Yeah, Sergeant Harden.
Sergeant Hardness?
Doesn't like heights.
She's not coming?
No.
No, she doesn't like to climb.
All right.
It's okay. She's fine.
That's fair heights.
It's such a construction feat that we cannot repeat today. The only tools they had in ancient Egypt during pharaonic times, soft copper tools and wooden sticks. You don't shape tons and tons of blocks. The biggest block is in the Khafre pyramid, 220 tons. It's unbelievable way. You cannot move it. From Aswan, which is 600 miles to the south, they had no technology to transport, no technology to make such a pyramid. We cannot repeat Great Pyramid of Egypt today with our technology. Okay, the last break. Now I'd like you to look around us. We see a lot of greenery. In the past, a lot of forests. We can see the river Fonica below us. Another 500 meters there, it meets with river Bosna, the biggest Bosnian river. It seems that in the distant past we had at least 4 large rivers here. Now, you probably heard about the Ice Age. The end of the last Ice Age was 12,500 years ago. Until that time, everything north from Austria was covered by ice. No Germany, no France, no Poland, no Scandinavia. Just very thick layer of ice reaching 3,000 meters. And then 12,500 years ago that ice melted and the huge quantities of water went to the world seas and oceans. Pacific Ocean went up for 80 meters, Atlantic Ocean for 120 meters, a little Adriatic Sea for 650 meters. Unimaginable scale earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis over 1,000 meters in height have destroyed the civilization and wiped off humanity. Over 99% of humans were killed. A very small number of people survived by hiding themselves in underground tunnels and natural caves on top of the mountains. When they came back to the surface, their world was destroyed. So they had to start from the beginning. And this is what our scientists called Neolithic times. One civilization cycle was over, another one started. Now we think that we've been developing progressively from primitive caveman level to what we are today, the most intelligent, the most advanced and the most beautiful beings. Well, we are wrong. This is just the last civilizational cycle. Once we are gone, and that will be rather soon because another global catastrophe is coming, then those who survive, they will think they are the first one and the smartest one. Now let's go back to the pyramids. Everything south from Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Greece, southern Italy, Turkey, no ice at all. The average yearly temperature just 3 degrees less than today. It was very pleasant. A lot of greenery, meaning a lot of forests. Forests means food, it means construction material. Here rivers, water. According to new science called anthropological genetics, we know exactly the migrations of all societies on the planet. The oldest cultural oases in Europe are the Basques in Spain and southern France, 55,000 years. The second oldest, Central Balkan, and that's exactly where we are at right now, 38,000 years. The third oldest, Ukraine, around the Black Sea, 28,000 years old. So we had the presence of intelligent man for 38,000 years. We had water, we had food, we had construction material, we had pleasant climate, all the elements for the civilizations. So if humans built the pyramid complex, they had all the elements to do that. We can continue. This is our archaeological trench number 4C, trench open section. In April of 2006 we started excavation. At that time we have opened 17 trenches on all 4 sides. On 3 sides we were finding this type of the construction material. The southern side, which has about 10 meters of soil, has been heavily damaged, probably because of the huge earthquake in the past. But at that time, until April of 2006, everything was covered by soil. Right here we had several trees, soil. And then we started removing the soil. We removed approximately 1 meter of soil. And this was the first block that we discovered. Now we are looking. It's rectangular in shape. 4.5 meters, 1.5 wide, 45 centimeters thick, 7 tons in weight. The surface is flat, break at 90 degrees, flat side, break at 90 degrees, 6 flat sides. Obviously not made by Mother Nature, but by intelligent hands. Next to this block is another one, and another one, and another one. They make the same slope. But this is just the first row of blocks. Below, as you can see, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a structure. Mother Nature does not construct, but intelligent hands. Now, let's look at the material to see what we have here. We have some which is white and gray and brown and blue, and we have red ones, we have green ones, different colors. The same stone that we have in the tunnels. Look at the sizes. The big, medium size, the small ones. Again, the same granulation like in the tunnels. They removed thousands of tons of materials. What they do with it? They use it to make those blocks. All they needed was a binder. You see this brownish material? Brown, brown, that's a clay. Now, clay has been known as the binding material for thousands of years. In ancient Rome, they used clay as the binder. They did not have cement. But they used it here much, much before that. So again, the need to change the history books. We took samples from those blocks and sent them to 7 different institutes for materials. Bosnia, Italy, France, Czech Republic. They all told us that this was so-called geopolymer concrete. Our concretes in 21st century, when it comes to hardness, are in the range from 10 to 60 megapascals. 60 being the best quality, made in Germany and the US. The concrete here is in the range from 73 megapascals to 134. So never in human history such good quality concrete was made like this one here. The second element for the quality of concrete is the water absorption. Lower the absorption, better the quality. Why? Because during the winter months, if water can get inside the concrete, it freezes and then concrete breaks. Our norms, our standards allow up to 3% for the absorption. Here we have only 1%. Again, superior. Well, if this concrete is so superior, how come we have so many smaller pieces like all around us? This land was always considered the cheapest and the worthless land in Visoko. Look, we have 44 degrees on the slope. Here you cannot plant any agriculture, you cannot keep your domestic animals. So from the farmer's point of view, this was worthless. So below us there is a gypsies village. They got the land basically for free. Now they need to build them structures, homes. They don't have the money to buy the material. They come here, they dig a little bit, and they found those blocks. But they are 7 tons in weight, too heavy. So what they would do, they would bring a dynamite, bring here, blow everything out. They were getting the smaller pieces, and those smaller pieces they were able to carry down to their homes and make the foundations and the walls of their home. So unfortunately, a lot of parts of pyramid have been destroyed forever. People didn't know. They thought this was a quarry, so let's use those blocks. When we came here in 2005, one of the first things that we required from the government was to stop destroying the pyramid, and really they did listen to us. So this is like a protected area. No more using the stones for the home building process. Now, how old is this structure? It is covered by soil. If we can figure out the age of the soil, then we can get to the minimum age of the structure. The science that investigates the age of the soil is called pedology. In Bosnia we have Federal Institute for Agropedology. Professor Rasulovic, who established the institute, he took samples from the sun and from the moon pyramids. He concluded that the age of the soil is between 12 and 15,000 years, meaning the structure is much older. Now this is very important because official history tells us that the oldest civilization are the Sumerians, 7 to 8,000 years old, then Babylon, then Akkad, Assyria, ancient Egypt, Hittites, ancient India. But it seems that this is just the last cycle in civilization. For this one there was another one, which ended 12,500 years ago. And another one, 18,000 years ago. And another one, 55 and 75,000 years ago. We simply live in the 5th world. And the Mayan civilization, among others, are talking about the 5 worlds. So, after the pedological research, we did more excavation work. On the trench which is next to us, you can go there a little bit later, we were removing the soil above the concrete blocks. And below the soil, on the top of the concrete, we discovered a brownish material, a piece of organic material, which was a fossilized leaf. So, structure was there, the wind was blowing, bringing this leaf on the top of the concrete. Now this leaf can give us, again, a minimum age of the structure. We did radiocarbon analysis, so-called C14 analysis, in Kiev, Ukraine. They told us that the age of the leaf was 24,800 years, plus minus 200 years. We go back for 25,000 years, and this is still a minimum age of the structure. Last year, 2013, our archaeological manager, Tim Moon from New Zealand, with his crew of volunteers were working on the section which we called number 12A, about 150 meters from here. And between 2 rows of blocks, below the first one and above the second one, like in the sandwich, he discovered 2 more pieces of fossilized leaves. Now, this was very important. It means that they got there during the construction phase. We did radiocarbon dating, age 29,200 years, plus minus 400 years. So we go back almost for 30,000 years. Now this is radiocarbon dating. In order to get calendar date, you need to add another 15%. So the total age of the structure is about 34,000 years. When we visited the first location, our Belvedere, the viewpoint, I told you we got 3 elements to change the history. The first pyramids in Europe, the biggest on the planet, and the most precise orientation of this side, to the north. Element number 4, the best quality concrete on the planet. Element number 5, the oldest structures on the planet. Now, because of these 5 elements, we have to change all the history books, from little Sarajevo, Zagreb, Paris, London, New Orleans, Boston. So what do? We change all that. All PhDs are trash, professorships, the way they teach our kids, or we try to stop this little foundation. They've been boycotting us, they've been labeling us, they've been trying to stop us, but despite everything we keep moving. We keep better, keep moving. So I think this is so important for the planet, so important globally, that we had to find option number 3. We had to change the history books where they needed, and we need to add to our scientific knowledge. Let me show you the next section. No more climbing. Every year we extend the section more and more. So the light brown color, look at from here, see the line? This is what we excavated this summer, and over there, and over there. Archaeology is a very slow process. You cannot come with a bulldozer and then remove all the soil. You need to go very slow. You do everything manually, using the brushes, checking for the soil layers if you find pottery, tools, or anything else. So it's a very slow process. Usually archaeological trenches in Peru, Bolivia, Egypt, Mexico, 2 by 2 meters. Here, we have right now about, let's say, 50 meters by 70 meters, unusually big. In 2006, those people who signed the petition against us, which were the leading people in cultural establishment, professors, archaeologists, geologists, ministers, and so on, when their petition was rejected, when they saw what we were finding, those concrete blocks there, concrete blocks here, concrete blocks there, they wanted to stop us somehow, because obviously we were producing proof that we were right and they were wrong. So what they did in 2006, then again 2008 and 2011, from one very small protected area on the very top of the pyramid, which is 450 meters away from here. So from that protected area, 20 by 40 meters, where medieval fortress used to stand, they were expanding, enlarging the protected area every 2 years. So right now, in 2014, that area has been expanded for 97 times. And all our archaeological trenches have become part of the protected area. Protected from who? From us. They wanted to protect their lack of knowledge. So officially we are not supposed to work here. And in the beginning some of them were saying, oh, this is the beginning of the fortress, which is 500 meters from here, which is built from the very inferior material comparing to the best quality concrete. Of course, nobody would build this just below the fortress, so much concrete. 18 million tons. Cheops pyramid, 5 million tons. They didn't know. Well, anyway, look how they built this section. They poured this section, which is triangular, first, and they came with the second section, going a little bit below the first one. And here's the third section, going below the second one. Here's the fourth section, going below the third one, creating a series of small steps. Why would they do something like that? Most probably because of the structural stability. You go up the pyramid, and every higher section is a little bit lower, so the structure is stable. Over there you can see the first row blocks, the second row blocks, there are 4 row blocks, over there 4 row blocks, and over here it starts with the 2 row blocks. So if we move a little bit, let's take a look of the extension of this section. We are coming to more concrete blocks. Now these blocks are 75 centimeters thick each, 2.5 feet. There are 2 row blocks, 75 centimeters, another 75 centimeters. And below we have a layer of clay. Clay was always used as a binder. Below the clay, more concrete blocks, clay again, and then sandstone blocks. And they're all laid out at the same flow, 44 degrees, all the way to the top of the pyramid. They've been using a lot of clay. The ancients were wise. They knew that clay is excellent binder, waterproof, thermal insulation, sound insulation, and they give flexibility to the structure. In the case of the earthquake, the structure does not collapse, it breathes, and then it goes back to the original position. The first 5 years of our project, 2005-2010, we spent proving that we have construction confidence. And really, shape of the pyramid, perfect orientation to the cardinal points, excellent quality concrete, tunnels, passageways. Somebody built the construction concrete. Now, we don't intend to spend another 100 years trying to convince everyone that we have pyramids in Bosnia. That would be the waste of time. We had to move on. Moving on in our case meant we had to find out the purpose of pyramids. Archaeologists, Egyptologists, geologists could not help us. Nobody teaches them in schools about the true purpose of pyramids. We had to find support from the experts in energy phenomena, physicists, electrical engineers, sound engineers, scientists who come with the scientific instruments, who measure. So, first one to come, physicist from Zagreb, Slobodan Mizra. He came with his 10-member team to measure electromagnetism. We went on the nearby hills, no anomalies. We were going around the pyramid, no anomalies. until we came to the very top of the pyramid. And there, at the top, in a radius of 4.5 meters, he detected and measured electromagnetic field of 28 kilohertz frequency. He went out of this radius, 4.5 meters, no measurement. He went back in, the measurement was there. So it meant that this field does not go left or right, but it goes up as electromagnetic beam. 3 months later, Serbian electrical engineer Goran Marjanović confirmed the measurement. Later that summer, sound engineer Heikki Savolainen from Finland, and then anthropologist Paolo De Bertolis from the University of Trieste from Italy confirmed the readings. When in science you have 4 independent teams who come at 4 different times, who brings their own equipment, but all of them get the same results, it is called international independent verification of the phenomenon. Which one? This energy beam going through the top of the pyramid of 28 kilohertz frequency, which is focused and continuous. Mother Nature does not make such beams. You have to have artificial source. You have to have machine. So this is not just the biggest and oldest pyramid on the planet, but the biggest energy machine on the planet that has been working continuously for 29,200 years, being the first perpetual motion machine on the planet. So now we have potential to change the future. Somebody in the past knew where to locate the pyramid. Pyramid is the most powerful geometrical shape when it comes to the energy. Why the location is important? The pyramid does not make energy from nothing. But if you locate the pyramid above the energy sources, natural sources, the pyramid becomes an amplifier. How do we know that? Our 2 Russian colleagues, Professor Kavroshkin and Professor Tsiplakov from the Schmidt Institute from Moscow, measured the strength of the signal at the bottom of the pyramid, close to the top. In Bosnia and in Egypt, results were the same. Close to the top, the strength was 50 times stronger than at the bottom. Something is happening inside the pyramid. And then we were looking for the source of the energy, electromagnetism. We sent our raw information to 3 labs, Zagreb, Belgrade, Vienna. They all told us the same thing. The source of the pyramid was 2,440 meters deep in a form of iron plate or iron ore. Why iron? Because iron generates its own electromagnetic field. What the pyramid does, it sucks this energy, amplifying. That's one type of the energy. The second one, also natural, magnetic energy, all around the planet. The third one, underground water streams. If you have 2 parallel underground rivers, in between electricity is formed. You can make a little experiment at your homes. You open the water, you put your hand, make 2 split water flows, in between you can measure potential. And now imagine when you have 2 underground water streams. The fourth source of energy, water moves, releases negative ions, negative ionization. The pyramid is actually very complex energy machine. These 4 types we can measure with our scientific instruments. How many more types of energy that we don't have scientific instruments for? For example, how to measure orgone energy, known as chi, or life energy. We know that the pyramids, they produce those types of energy, but we don't have instruments to measure them. So now we are in the presence of very powerful energy machine which is very complex. So, somebody knew the power of shape, the power of natural resources, and how to get the huge quantities of energy. 7, 8, 9 years ago, when we started the project, our opponents were coming from the cultural establishment. They were very strong. They had media, they had influence on politicians. But it seems that it's going to be a piece of cake, what we are to expect in the future. Proving that you can get clean energy, unlimited quantities of energy, and free energy by using the shapes and natural resources would of course jeopardize the largest lobby that we have, energy lobby, oil and gas. Proving that pyramid energy, like the one that we have in the tunnels, can have self-healing abilities is something that the largest pharmaceutical industry will not like. So the lobbies that's going to be against this project in the future will be just stronger and stronger. And the one that you belong to, military. Now, we have proven that we have energy beam going through the top of the pyramid. And then we measure the strength of the signal. 3 meters above, another 3 meters, another 3 meters. Every time we lift the sonda to measure the strength of the signal was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, the physicists could not believe that. They said, well, that's not how technology works. Our technology works in such a way that closer to the source, the signal is stronger. You move away, the signal is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And that's what we call Hertzian technology. But since everything is upside down in Bosnia, as you could notice so far, our pyramids work differently. You move away, the signal is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So let's call this non-Hertzian technology. Theoretically, if it's getting stronger as it moves away from the pyramid, it could go through the ionosphere around our planet, through our solar system, and hit any other solar system. And if you are precise enough, you can establish the energy bridge between any two planets, ours and some others. If you establish the energy bridge, then you can move the frequencies. What are the frequencies? Information. You move the information, then you are getting very powerful communication device. And you are getting the scientific proof that we did have more advanced societies in the past. Because if you have point A and you have point B, the question is, who's at point B? Which ancient civilization? And now this project will get attention from the military lobby. So this project is a very exciting project, and I'm looking forward to see what kind of interesting games will be happening in the future. Well, thank you for your attention. That will be all that I prepared for you today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, you are free to ask, or comments, or critiques, or whatever. Now imagine that 90% of what I just told you today is true, or even 30%. It's devastating for the mainstream scientists. Let me show you that the biggest blocks that we have on our attention on the forehead.
Non-Hertzian waves are from Tesla. Tesla discovered non-Hertzian.
Yeah. In 21st century, we do not have technology which is based on non-Hertzian waves. But the guy who you just mentioned, Nikola Tesla, who was born 250 kilometers from here, was experimenting with this type of technology in his lab in 1899 and 1900 in Colorado Springs. And he constructed a transformer with which he was able to send energy beams from one end of his lab to another one wirelessly. And then he sent energy beam to the ionosphere. It was the last experiment from his lab, and they burned down his lab after that. And this energy beam reflected from the ionosphere, coming back to the planet much stronger, non-Hertzian. And then he lit up 10,000 homes in Colorado Springs. The first time one guy proved that free and clean and non-Hertzian energy and wireless transportation was possible. Of course, big American corporations did not accept that. How will JP Morgan sell the free energy and make money? Instead, They sided with Edison, building very expensive hydrothermal, nowadays nuclear power plants, making the transformers and power lines, losing 20 to 50% of the energy so they can sell it to us end users for a lot of money. And that's what we call this is profit. Now we have several more sections, but they are not so big. They are usually 5 by 5 meters. In the forest, we have about 4 or 5 of them. Wherever we dig, we are finding the concrete material. So if you're finding it on all sides of pyramids, obviously the whole structure is covered by concrete. It would be nice, that was my plan in the beginning, to open at least 150 by 150 section here on this side so people from Visoko and from the highway can see that. But very soon after we started digging, they changed the laws. And then the Ministry of Forestry was coming, did not let us cut the trees. And then the museum from Visoko came, they said, you cannot open this, we're going to have flood here. So excuses, excuses, excuses. Okay. We opened this section also in April of 2006. Every year we are moving a little bit to the right. And just here we discovered that piece of organic material, 24,800 years old. Now look at this block, for example. Here we had the big trees. Originally it was completely full and perfectly square. Over there is rectangular. Here was square. 4.5 meters, 4.5 meters, 4.5 meters, 4.5. So 4.5 times 4.5, that's 18 square meters. The thickness is about 75 to 80 centimeters, so it's 14.5 cubic meters, 14.5 cubic meters. The specific weight of this material is about 2.4. So the weight, the mass of this block is about 32 tons. 32 tons. This one, that one very similar, and so on. Here we have 2 layers of blocks. One, and below is the second one. And then we have clay. Then we have concrete, then we have clay, and then we have sandstone blocks. Interestingly enough, all these sections are different. Here you have squares, over there you have rectangular, and you have something like standing rectangular. Why would they do that? Hard to say. But what we can see is that this pyramid is not about the beauty, about the cosmetic. When you go to ancient Greece or ancient Rome, they were all about the beauty, those stone columns and temples. Here it was about the function. They simply needed the best quality concrete, which will not enable the energy to move through the pyramid, but to stay within the pyramid. We, through our ground-penetrating radars, discovered that inside the pyramid there are 7 levels of passageways, anyway from 10 to 350 meters. And those passageways, they lay out like a spiral. The spiral is very important. Namely, look at how the system works. You have the source of the energy, electromagnetism, going up, going through a network of tunnels, getting stronger and stronger, going through this network of passageways, spinning, and then in the form of energy beam going through the top of the pyramid. It's a very complex and very delicate machine. So, during the original times when it was built, first of all, our planet was much stronger. Energy sources were much stronger. The pyramid was much stronger. So now, instead of the tunnels that would feed the pyramid, you fill them all up with the filling material. There is no energy flow anymore. There is no food for this structure. It still works. We can measure the frequencies, but the strength is very low. Right now, we measured millivolts or volts. Originally, they are probably 1,000 times stronger. And then it could actually function. Now we got proof that this is a machine, but it does not function originally anymore. So I had. Can we have a photo with you here? Of course.
Before we do that, let me, guys, Dr. Sam, on behalf of our team from our small NATO headquarters in Sarajevo, I'd like to present you with a coin of, just to say thanks on behalf of everybody for a fine tour. We got the best guide, that's for sure. So thank you very much.
All right. Wonderful.
Yes. So
Thanks a lot.
please join me. Very interesting, very thought-provoking. I'm sure we'll have some interesting discussions this evening, won't we? Yes, very thought-provoking. So thank you.
All right.
Now a group photo?
Yes,
One
yes,
more?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
See, how do we do this without getting...
Yes, we're gonna have to scroll up here.
What do you suppose the construction method was? Mix this on site, or how do you?
I would say so. That's the simplest way to do that.
The trail going
Really, like in the case of Egyptian pyramids, some of the blocks were 200 tons, going from Aswan to Giza.
All right.
I mean 900 kilometers. Here you could get material from the tunnels, from the underground, within 2 kilometers. You can even bring it in the baskets. So simple. Mix with the clay, just a matter of temperature and pressure. And it's moved.